Welcome to Public Soul Podcast. My name is Rina Ip. Today I'm going to show you how to read the URA quarterly real estate statistics. I'm going to share with you my personal analysis on the property price index, rental, and supply pipelines. But before that, I have to clarify that there are three sets of property price indexes in the market. The first set is from URA, where they release the quarterly real estate numbers. The second set of data is from SRX, which is under SPH. And they release monthly flash reports on non-landed residential resale and also HDB resale. And there's also private and HDB rents. The first set of data is from NUS Institute of Real Estate Studies, where they use the method of basket-based monitor a month-on-month 364 projects in Singapore, which TOP in between the year 1998 to 2009, and they divide the data into the central and non-central regions. I don't mind sharing with you my personal analysis on the URA data because I guess 99.9% of people after reading this article, they won't bother to go to the URA website to look at the real numbers. First, look at the non-landed residential prices PPI. The 4.4% is quite significant growth. But you look at that, CCR and OCR actually have about 5% growth. Remember last time URA, they come up with the separation of uncompleted and completed PPI, because you notice that uncompleted PPI is much higher than completed PPI because of the new launch. But this is missing over here. So I can guess that for OCR, you have the launch of Chemistries that is at 1,300 per square foot, which is at least 30% higher than the nearby projects that justify the growth. When you compare that with SRX, checking out PPI month by month, you notice that the growth actually is in February when they announced the raising of the top marginal buying stamp duty from 3 to 4%. People rushed to close the deals. But in March, unfortunately, the growth has slowed down. If you look at CCR, they have a more consistent increase in prices, but LCR and OCR, the growth has slowed down. When you look at the residential prices compare with the last peak, they're still far from recovery over here. Let's look at the transaction volume. So for both new sale and resale and the total transaction, so you'll see the last quarter is actually on the way down. So if the residential market is on the way to recovery, why the transaction volume is just still on the way down, and the increase in prices out of a decrease in the transaction volume, which is quite strange, right? You look at the last quarter, you see that across all the regions that actually the transaction volume is on the way down, especially in CCR and LCR. And compared with the peak, we're still very far behind. Let's look at rental. You see this is the first time they have a 0.3 growth in rent. Does that mean that the rental market is on the way to recovery? We see that compared with the last peak, we still have another over 30% down from the last peak in third quarter 2013. When you look at the SRX non-landed private rents, you notice that the rental market actually, the growth is more optimistic in February, but in March, they fall back to negative growth again, especially in CCR and LCR. Why the rental market is so miserable? If you look at this URA chart on completion projects, you notice that for this year we already have 1,900 private residential units and 2,200 EC completed, and still have another 9,800 to be TOP till end of the year. When you look at the peak of TOP projects actually happening these 2 years and also 2021. So for then also have existing projects, you notice that the completion from new projects is really very keen. This article talking about 42,200 private homes may hit market later this year, and should be saying that if the developers they launch strategically, they won't swarm the market. Is that the case? We look at the vacancy rate of completed units is still 7.4% for private units. In the supply pipelines, we have another 44,000 that's under construction or it is waiting for pending approval. Total, we have over 75,000 of supply in the pipeline. Remember, we only sold 1,581 units, new units for last quarter. If that's the case, even if from tomorrow onward, when land sale, we stop all the government land sales and on board, we still need another 12 years to clear all the units. You look at this chart, you notice that the unsold units, they have to slow down to 0.17, but because of the aggressive bidding of government land sales and also the on-board craze, so the supply actually built up again for the last 2 quarters. I'd like to quote the best-selling statistics book, How to Lie with Statistics. It talks about our fact-minded culture. It's only the writers who use the words of honesty and understanding, and then the readers who know what they mean. Otherwise, the results of statistics are only nonsense. Remember in this Straits Times article, spokespersons they talk about how the public buyers and investors, they now go into the new and resale market, and how the on-board sale is going to push the rental market into recovery mode, and how the 15,000 units to be launched by the developers won't be a problem. With all the data and facts presented in this podcast, I hope you have a better picture of the current situation right now and use your individual judgment to read all these numbers. If you like my Property Show podcast, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.